Thank you for joining this Explore Analytics webinar. Today we're going to talk about how you can take the reporting that you're doing and use Explore Analytics to push it to the next level by really aligning the reporting that you're doing against ServiceNow to the business. And we'll show how Explore Analytics' unique functionality and flexible reporting tool allows you to really get more in the language of the business and deliver more value to the business stakeholders that you work with. So one of the reasons that Explore Analytics exists is, we've been hearing feedback about ServiceNow reporting for a while. We talk all the time with customers who, hit a wall of what they can do with ServiceNow reporting. And in some cases, they spend a lot of time spending hours each week in Excel manually building those reports. In other cases, you're spending a lot of time in complex reporting tools. And the reason for that is because, the business is coming to you asking for, reports that mean something to them, that go beyond, very simplistic reports. They want you to reach that next level of maturity. And with ServiceNow's reporting, you can't get there. So with Explore Analytics, you have a chance to really get to that next level. Explore Analytics is a self-service analytical tool, which is really unique from other reporting solutions in the market. The goal is that every user should be able to slice and dice and really interact with data. This allows business analysts and folks who are involved in the process to get their hands on data and manipulate it and turn around information in a way that folks are interested in consuming it. So if you look at the example on this slide, you're looking at the SLA performance over time. And really, we're abstracting the details and the gory mess, but we're showing here's where we succeeded, here's where we failed, and here's a target line so that it's very clear to see over time if we're doing better or worse than our target. These reports are both real-time or trended. That's another thing that's very unique about Explore Analytics is the ability to have up-to-the-second information. You load a report and you see what's going on in ServiceNow, even though we're doing advanced analysis and calculations beyond what the out-of-the-box reporting can deliver. We also do trended, which is something that ServiceNow's reporting doesn't do, so that you can benchmark and understand how this business-focused analytics changes over time. All of this is delivered software as a service, so it's cloud-based. You just use it through the browser. There's no, complex installation or deployment. The web, the mobile, the tablet, wherever the business wants to see the reports, that's how you can deliver it, and that's how you can build in the same user interface those reports. And then to get you started, we have out-of-the-box analytical applications that have pre-built views around incident, problem, change, the CMDB, etc., so that you can really get going, hit the ground running, and not spend a lot of time up front before you get those first reports and start delivering value to the business. That's really why we're here. The first is to empower every user to be able to deliver these kinds of reports. The second is to answer questions quickly so that you don't spend a lot of time and a lot of manual effort and cost to the business. And the third is to drive improved behavior by pushing these reports and distributing them, getting people to really take action and deliver better outcomes. So we'll start with empowering every user. From a report building perspective, the key is to be able to make it very easy for users to build those reports for themselves so that they're not beholden to a small number of analysts who have database technology information. So that really you can distribute this to managers, to power users, the people who really understand the data so they can build those reports for themselves rather than having everyone come to the same person and asking for reports and having requests for reports go into a queue. The other is interactive viewing control. So allowing those business stakeholders who are viewing the reports to really have their own ability to slice and dice and understand, even if they didn't build the report, even if they're not someone who's going to learn, how to build reports, they can switch from bars to lines and they can, change the timeline so they don't have to come ask you for basically the same report but in a slightly different format. We also mentioned answering questions quickly. That's both in terms of building the reports using an easy-to-use drag-and-drop user interface. There's really no solution that allows you to build reports as quickly and as easily as ServiceNow. And because the reports are live, you see the results of that immediately. So you don't have to spend a lot of time waiting for things to compile, waiting for trend jobs and snapshots to get into place. But it's also easy to set up. We have customers, we have a large Fortune 50 bottler that, they found us through YouTube, they signed up for an evaluation, and within an hour they were showing complex aging reports in production against their production data live. It didn't require a services engagement, it didn't require a huge development or integration effort. We really abstract that so that it's up to you, you do it very quickly and without pain. And once you get into connecting to multiple data sources, ServiceNow and a SQL database, or ServiceNow and another enterprise application, we can do that just as easily. So it really unleashes the data wherever it lives and turns the focus away from technical implementation and onto business analytics and what it is you want to deliver to the users who are asking for that visibility. The reason we're able to do this is we take a very different approach from any other reporting tool that's out there. Any reporting or analytics or business intelligence solution you're going to come across is going to have basically this model, where on a scheduled basis, data is pulled out of ServiceNow, pulled out of other systems into a custom database that's been built for the reporting solution. On a scheduled basis, the data goes in, and then you have a report generator, a database administrator, who's carrying and feeding, working on the integrations, etc., and making sure that those reports, that data is able to be reported on, and then publishing those reports out to the users, whether those are process owners or business stakeholders. But in this approach, if you're one of these users and you want to see the report differently, you make a request back to the report writer, and the report writer may have to change the data collection, and then there isn't historical data on the previous data. Or you may need to change the way that the integration is written. So there can be a lot of inefficiency and a lot of time and manual effort that goes into this. Explore Analytics changes all of that. With our innovative way of doing live to the data source querying and aggregation, you don't have to spend time building and maintaining a separate store of data. Instead, our cloud application has standard drivers for a number of different tools, whether they're ServiceNow or SQL databases or other enterprise applications. Or you can upload your own data, such as Excel or Access databases, to Explore Analytics. So when you make a query in Explore Analytics, you say, how many open incidents are there by business service? We ask ServiceNow. ServiceNow does some grouping and aggregation. We take the results, we do additional analytics and processing, and we show that directly to the user in a matter of milliseconds, so that you can really give that up-to-the-minute, live, and interactive way. Because we're doing it this way, there's a few other innovative features that no other solution can deliver. One is we leverage ServiceNow's role-based entitlement model. So users only see the data they have permission to within ServiceNow, and you can give them custom views like my services or my locations or my departments. When we talk about speaking the business's language, that's very key so that users understand things in the context that it makes sense for them, rather than what made sense for the IT and what makes sense for the developers within the limits of the tool. So with Explore Analytics, you can very easily look across all your sources of data without having to do a large project to get this started. Most of our customers have production data and reports in under a week, often in a few hours. And then, once you have this ability to connect to the data, the next step is actually leveraging that data. You want to have live reports that are drillable so that you can put them on dashboards and folks can drill through and take action on them. One of our customers, they had a delinquent task report that was tracking tasks that hadn't been actioned on in over 30 days. They put that on people's dashboards so that the users could drill through and actually immediately take action on those tasks. And within a couple months, they had a 30% reduction in those tasks. So what that allowed them to do was distribute a report that not only told people something, but it actually changed things and improved the environment. That's what the business expects when they look for really actionable, really key analytics. And part of the reason we can do that is using these calculations, scorecards, conditional formatting, you can really attract people's attention to the information that's up to date. So you can see in these examples, I can see whether the information is improving or not improving. I can see whether the uptime is raised or lowered, etc., so that, I can really get a sense of what's going on and how's it working. And then, as I mentioned, you can start quickly using our pre-built analytics. So things like aging reports, SLA, both for task and for availability, user demand analysis, team dashboards that teams and managers can work out of, analysis of whether changes are successful, the service catalog with knowledge base. All of this is pre-built based on guidelines from ITIL, the KPIs that are most common, as well as what we've seen our customers doing, the most common ways that our customers are building this, so that you can very easily get an understanding of, hey, what's going on and how can we improve without having to spend a lot of time up front, leveraging the lessons we've already learned from other customers. Similarly, we have a similar application around ServiceNow's IT financial management application, so that you can speak to the language in terms of cost, in terms of, where dollars are being spent and how they can drive and improve that for themselves with a true showback model. So now that we've covered Explore Analytics, we're going to take a look and we're going to get into kind of what is the solution that powers all of this. So I'm going to switch and take a look at Explore Analytics. So within Explore Analytics, I'm going to go through some example reports, and each one is going to be an example of how, rather than a simple, straightforward report, we're going to get to that next level and be able to really communicate to the business in the language that the business is interested in and in formats that really speak to the user. So let's start with one of the most common reports I've really ever seen. It's a little bit difficult to build in ServiceNow. We see a lot of customers building this manually. Within Explore Analytics, it's one of the basic reports in the IT service management application. It's showing incidents that are open, resolved, and backlog per week. So straightforwardly, how many were open, how many were closed, and then at the end of each week or at the end of each month, how many remained open. Now, this is already something that is very difficult to do within ServiceNow and which is very easy within Explore Analytics. But we've taken a few additional steps to make this even more in terms that can be understood, to business stakeholders. In this case, we're really looking at something that's more of an IT delivery focus, where I can use this drop-down to say, I'd like to see that by database, I'd like to see that for this database San Diego team, for the network team, but it allows the user themselves who's viewing this report to get a better sense of, where is this coming from, how does this work, etc., and they can focus in on, one particular aspect. That's a really key part of making this interactive, making this easy to understand and actionable for those users. But this might be a lot of detailed data, and for the business stakeholders who want to get a sense of what IT is working on, but don't necessarily need to get into the weeds, they might want to see something that's a little bit more overview. So now we can look at something very similar, but in a scorecard view. And this is what we call our new incident scorecard, which is showing an overall trend of our tickets being opened or closed. And I can see that so far today, since it's a little bit early in the morning, we've got, maybe one ticket so far, which is a reduction on the previous days. And I can see that trend line, how that's changed over time. If I click through, I'm still going to be able to get down to that detail, and I can even get below that to get to the individual incidents that make up that scorecard. But from a business service perspective, unless I'm really interested in what's going on behind the scenes, overall, if I just want to know what's going on in our IT department, you can give those users that visibility. But often what we find is that when you look at a scorecard like new incidents, it's kind of stripped away of context, We don't know how that relates to what's going on. So a way that the business might be more interested in seeing this is to relate this back to the user. So this is what we call our new incidents per user scorecard. So if I show you how this is actually put together by drilling through, what we're doing is this is a mashup that's combining data from multiple tables. We're looking at the number of newly opened incidents, but we're also looking at the number of active users. So this might be the number of employees that are in my company. And then we're putting a formula against this. This is unique functionality that Explore Analytics can do without requiring JavaScript or some intense coding. All I want to say is, like an Excel formula, give me the number of incidents and the number of users. This is being calculated live so that it's up to the minute, but we're also snapshotting it over time so I can see how that changes over time. And what that lets me know is for each user I have, we have 0.3% of those, 0.003 incidents per each of those users. This is more useful to the business because what that tells me is if I grow the number of employees or shrink the number of employees that are working in the company overall, we'll be able to kind of know how many new incidents that might translate into. Whereas, if the number of incidents go up, is that because our company is growing, or is that because, we have some other issues? So this is a great way where we've really quickly shown an example of how we've taken a straightforward IT-looking report, like new incidents, and put it in terms that might make give a little bit more depth and context for the business. And we're doing it by pulling data from multiple sources, the incidents and the users. To show another example, this is something that we call our end user demand report. And end user demand is also a report that's pulling from multiple tables. And if I drill down and take a look at that, what that gives me is the number of incidents and the number of requests in one report. And again, it didn't require a database view. It didn't require any development or changes to ServiceNow. It's just using this concept that we call a mashup to bring those two together. And I'll show how that's defined in a moment. Again, we're using a formula to combine the incidents or requests together so I can see, okay, over time, do we have overall more coming in? Because an increase in incidents might be because of a decrease in requests or vice versa, and we can see overall where it's gone up or gone down together. Again, to the business, we're looking at this broader and bigger, and that might give me more context of what's going on. So this is kind of one example of pulling data from multiple places to give a higher level view, which users can still drill into to get to the details, but which can give them a better sense overall of the context of what's going on. Let's take a look at another approach of putting this in the user's context. So for example, let's suppose I wanted to get a sense of how the open incidents align to some more business-focused way of looking at it. Now, I've invested a lot of time in my organization's CMDB, and we have a lot of incidents that are opened against individual configuration items. So I can see here's the number of open incidents, and here are the business services that they are associated into. Unfortunately, the business is going to look at this, and they're going to think it's absolutely incomprehensible. So instead, what I can do is go to my configuration items field, and I'm going to select business service, and now relabel this to business service. And what this is going to do is automatically roll up those incidents from those component CIs to those business services. I really want to drive this point home because this is a unique feature that no other solution for ServiceNow can deliver. There's no other solution that allows you to take those component CIs and roll up to those parent business services so that without having to do any coding or any change to ServiceNow, I can say electronic messaging had 11 incidents this month. And when I drill down, I can see that some of those incidents were, even shared between multiple business services, but I can roll them up so that I can see it under each business service. That's the view that business stakeholders want to understand is how do those incidents align up to those services, right? That's the whole concept of service delivery, and only Explore Analytics can deliver that. Now, with multiple sources of data, you can align that ServiceNow information to really any kind of process. So, for example, I'm going to create a new view from scratch, a new mashup view. And what that's going to be is I'm going to look at my incidents by month, and I'm actually going to compare that to sales so that we can see whether incidents are impacting sales. These are coming from two different data sources. One is coming from ServiceNow, and the other is coming from a sales system. And all I have to do is build those individual reports and say I want to combine them. So now I've created my How Are We Impacting Sales report. It's pulling from two different data sources and putting them together, and I can see our trend of sales and our trend of incidents in one, live view. So because we can pull against really any kind of data and we can roll that information however we'd like, it makes it very easy for us to then do calculations and get to that level of understanding. So for example, this is an asset manager report that's taking the total number of assets, the number of users in each department, and combining that to say, well, which departments have the most expensive assets associated to them? So I can see very easily that finance and customer support are both have, on average, more than $3,000 per user being spent on them, whereas HR rather has 161. Again, these are actionable. I can drill through and see more information. But we're talking about the things that really impact the business, the money that's being spent, the services that are being impacted, rather than looking at things in the way that IT might be interested in looking at them. All of these reports that we're looking at are built using simple drag and drop. So if I want to align that to company, I just drag that, and I can see that information. It updates that live. It doesn't require development or complexity from that perspective. I can go further. I can say, let's take a look at project management. This is pulling together from multiple sources, the planned utilization, the actual utilization, and a calculation that's showing the variance. So, this group was supposed to be utilized 200% of the time. They were actually utilized 100% of the time, which probably makes sense. So you see that we overbooked them by 122%. So again, it allows you to roll up, and these are by different groups of locations, and I can see how that changes over time fairly easily with this animation. So whatever the way that people want to understand project management, asset management, IT service management, you can really get those key statistics and drive that in ways that folks are interested in. Another way of looking at things might be to align it geographically. So, we have a large retail customer, and the way they need to look at things is based on stores, right? How do we align to the location? Or it might be data centers. Are there particular data centers where we're struggling, or what's our data center footprint? So this is a report that's looking at the service request process, at what kinds of service requests are we delivering. So you can see by data center, what types of footprint are we creating. So I can see that, in our China data center, we're delivering a lot of CentOS. And again, from an interactive perspective, if I want to zoom in, or I want to say, well, just show me what that's like in the continental United States, that's something that, again, the user can very easily do for themselves and explore, get a better understanding, see what it looks like, in this case, worldwide. The reporting is also about bringing together multiple ways of looking at things into one view. So we saw those scorecards before, from a change management perspective, once you start to do these calculations, these different ways of looking at things, you can start to arrange them together to look at, for example, this is how we're doing it changes. We want to improve emergency changes, late changes, failed changes, and high-risk changes. Ideally, we'd like to have none of those so that they're all standard, on time, with no issues. And you can see that for some of these, we're doing better. Late changes and failed changes are reducing. High-risk changes seems to be holding fairly steady after reductions that we've made earlier in the year. But you can see that we still have a lot of emergency changes. They're increasing, and we can't really see a clear trend here. So maybe this month what we want to focus on is emergency changes so that we're less disruptive to the environment. That being said, it isn't impacting our other key issues. Now, we've been looking at a lot of this in terms of what kinds of reports we can deliver, but in terms of aligning to the business, it's just as key to be able to publish and distribute this in ways that they can consume so that they can get that where they need it. So one option is to schedule these reports. So if I go to File and Schedule, what this allows me to do is say, do I want to publish a live report, or do I want to publish a frozen view so that they see exactly what I saw at the time that I ran it? I can publish it to ServiceNow as well, so it can be added to dashboards, which we'll show in a moment. So now, I have this report available to be added on dashboards. I have it being sent out by email so that an interactive link will be sent to the users that I want to send it to and the schedule that I want it to be sent on. Or if I want to look at ServiceNow, I can have it published to these dashboards. So this is ServiceNow's out-of-the-box dashboarding capability. I can hit Add Content and find any of the other gauges or reports that are available here and say that I want these to be added to the dashboard. And then the users can have those. They're live. They're still drillable so that I can drill through to the data. If I want to actually go through that to the form that sits behind that, I can. So again, it's sitting on the dashboard, it's live, and it's actionable to take the user down to what you want them to take action on. And that's how you get users to really drive real change. That being said, we can also publish it to HTML portals or to ServiceNow CMS. So for example, this is a reporting portal. And if a user goes to the service management page, you can see here that I have the business service reporting. Because I'm logged in through ServiceNow, it's actually contextual to who I am as a user. So this is filtered based on business services that I'm associated to as the owner. So you can see that bond trading, the bond trading disaster recovery, and Uber service are all owned by me. I can see the current outages. I can go and actually take a look at what that outage is if I have permission within ServiceNow. I can see that there was a hot fix that was rolled back. And I can see this map that's showing me those worldwide incidents. Again, it's an interactive view. I can say, okay, show it to me for Uber. Oh, goodness, Uber service is having a lot of issues. Or I can say, show it to me for bond trading, etc. So it's the information I'm interested in the language I'm interested in it. It's live, it's interactive. I can get a hold of the details if I want to, but I don't have to. I can consume it on a tablet. I can consume it on a mobile phone. And all of these reports that I'm looking at right now, no other solution can deliver them. Only Explore Analytics can bring that together. Thank you all for joining. If you'd like more information, there's information on our wiki. There's the ability through our website to sign up for a free 30-day trial. So if you're interested in finding out more, you absolutely can. We're always interested to hear what your use cases are. So if you have a complex Excel spreadsheet with metrics that your business relies on and you want to know how to get out of manually building it and into these automated, live, interactive dashboards, feel free to reach out. We're absolutely happy to help make that a reality.